Call 215-227-2727. When you've got legal questions, we've got the answers. This is Court Radio. And now here's your host, Dean Weitzman.
Good morning. This is Dean, and this is Court Radio. Hey, welcome. I want to say hello to my co-host, the one and only David M. Rappaport.
Hey, good morning.
Hello, David.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Today is, I believe, the 14th of December.
It is.
7 a.m., all is well, the weather is beautiful, and everybody
Crisp
is listening to Court Radio right now. If you've got legal questions, we've got the answers. Give us a call at 215-227-2727. Hey, David, got to start with a shout-out to Ileana.
Oh, Ileana, yes, you told me about this.
Yeah, Ileana, our youngest Court Radio listener, brought Mom in this week for a consultation on a personal injury matter to my Philly lawyer, and I promised Ileana that I'd mention her. She was adorable.
All by herself. She said,
adorable.
Mom, you're going to Dean's office.
That's in essence, yes, David. She got a T-shirt out of it, and all was well with Mom. 215-227-2727. Court Radio is the place you get your legal questions answered, and we talk about interesting topics. And we're going to jump right in, David.
Okay.
And folks, if you want to follow us on Twitter at Court Radio, that's all you got to do. You can tweet us at Court Radio. We may even respond. David?
Yes?
What's going on in the world? Eagles.
Oh, you got to mention the Eagles because everyone's frantic and
Eagles,
crazy.
Dallas, tonight, 8 o'clock, the Sunday night game, 8:25, something like that.
There's playoff implications with this game, apparently. I'm not really well-versed on the football thing, but I know there's playoff implications.
I think they're both. I think both teams are 9-3 or 9-4, and we beat up Dallas pretty badly in Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas is a good road team. They're 6-0 on the road.
You want to see how they react to what we did to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. I suspect the Eagles go down tonight.
Oh, really? That's your prediction?
You'd hate to be a naysayer, but I mean, I got to call it like I call it,
okay.
And that's my prediction.
All
but
right.
I do wish them the best, and I hope I'm wrong. Next Sunday we're actually going to have some representative from the Eagles on Court Radio.
Yeah, and if they may smack you around a little bit for your
listen, I'm giving them the
prediction.
chance. If you want to smack Dean around, then you better smack the Cowboys around tonight. 215-227-2727. Sony Pictures and Entertainment has been invaded by the North Koreans.
Yeah, apparently the Guardians, I was saying before, the Guardians of Peace or something? Is that what they're... Which I don't understand the whole agenda of that name. Is their whole thing is getting private emails and disseminating them. Yeah, well, I don't know what peaceful thing that does, but whatever.
It's the North Koreans, by getting the Sony executives' emails, are going to bring down all of democracy.
Yeah, right.
Yes, it's single-handedly
maybe they're just trying to
embarrass the executives at Sony.
Yeah, Japan. The Japanese is what from across the river or ocean there.
Yeah, some body of water.
Body of water, whatever it is.
We probably have listeners there. You're getting them angry right now.
No, not
David.
angry. Hey, call in if you're in Japan right
Osaka, we're going to answer your legal questions today. 215-227-2727. All right, here it is. We have our guest, a friend of mine, actually, from back in the day, the Northeast Connections.
What day was that?
The
early 1800s?
Comic books. The days of comic books. We have Gabe Brandis. Welcome to Court Radio, Gabe.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, Gabe is here not because he's a friend of mine, David.
Okay.
Not because we graduated high school together, but back in the late 70s and early 80s, Gabe ended up is a Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. It's where they wear like kind of pinkish clothing. What color clothing are they known for?
Generally, it's described as saffron. I guess you could say orangish.
Orangish. Okay, and then they have those little things on their fingers, the symbols.
Symbols. Yes.
Yeah. What is that? Is that a religion? Is that what's going on? Is the Hare Krishnas a legitimate religion in the United States?
Well, Dean, what happened was the Hare Krishna religion is actually based on an ancient religion from India that's been around for thousands of years. And about 500 years ago, there was a movement of a Renaissance, which actually coincided with the European Renaissance in India. And it was a religious movement that propagated the Vaishnava, or worship of Vishnu, or Krishna religion. Back in the 1960s, a Swami by the name of Prabhupada came from India.
Whoa! What's a Swami? Is that like a minister? Is it the equivalent of a teacher or a leader, a priest? How would you call it? What would you equate? Because not a lot of people know what Swami is.
A Swami, I guess you could say, is like a holy man, or a holy person, a person who. A teacher.
A teacher.
A teacher of...
Do they lead the service? Is there a service in Hare Krishna's religion like there is in Judaism or Christianity?
There is. And it's actually a very colorful and very vibrant service, actually. I think that's part of the allure. It is the Hare Krishna religion, which was brought to the United States in the late 60s by Swami Prabhupada, is his name. And probably millions of listeners have probably seen the books or seen the Hare Krishnas running around in parking lots, chasing them down to give them a book.
Speaking of books, you wrote a book.
I wrote a book. It's my memoir.
It's your memoir. What's it called?
My memoir is called Servant of the Lotus Feet, a Hare Krishna Odyssey. It's my true story.
Servant of the Lotus Feet. When did you get involved, Gabe?
Well, I officially became involved in 1980 after my freshman year of college at Bucks County Community College. I went to Boston to check out some universities and colleges with the idea of transferring to school there after 2 years. And while I was up there, I met the Hare Krishnas in the Boston Common, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Did you come back to Philadelphia after that?
No.
No. You were gone. And for how long were you gone?
I was gone for 4 years, 1980 to 1984. Now, actually, I didn't just go up there and get sucked into this organization. I say organization, this religion, if you will. A few years prior to that, in high school, I found a book that caught my eye at the Northeast Regional Library, which I tell about in my memoir. There was a book on the carousel that caught my eye and my attention, and I started reading it right then and there. Now, if I had known it was a Hare Krishna book, I would have just put it down, walked away. But by the time I got to page 3, I was so mesmerized that by the time I saw Hare Krishna, I was taken in.
It was so big. I don't know. David and I were talking about this on the way over. It seems like, I'm going to use the word cults, okay, that these organizations where kids would be drawn in for whatever reason and not leave very easily. These seemed like they were a lot bigger back in the late 70s, early 80s. You had Jim Jones. We all know how that ended. You would see these Hare Krishna folks chanting and walking around the streets of Philadelphia. I don't see all of that too much. Do you think that the problem is eradicated? If it's a problem, do you think it's a problem? And do you think it's eradicated?
Well, I think it could be a problem. I think there could be a problem in any religion, mainstream or otherwise, when you have a leader who coerces their followers to give not only just their more than their all. It's okay to be devoted to God in your own way, but when you have a leader who basically says to come to God, you need to go through me, that's where the problem begins. We gave our lives, we gave our money, we gave our energy.
What was a typical day like for you as a Hare Krishna? And you're not any longer, right?
No, I haven't been for 30 years. This nightmare ended in 1984.
Okay, and how do people get your book? Let's figure that out. I mean, how do you learn about Gabe's nightmare from being abducted or drawn in, inculcated into this group and held in there, not necessarily by your own free will?
Psychologically coerced, I would say. I was kind of indoctrinated with the philosophy where I was actually afraid to leave
Okay.
during the wrath of God, you know?
You're afraid to leave. You're held up in there for 4 years. You get out. We're going to talk about how you got out. How do people get the book to find out more about it?
I would say the best way would be to order through the publisher, iUniverse.
And how do they do that?
You can go to the iUniverse website and simply just follow the order of the book, just like you would any other means. If you order by Amazon or Barnes & Noble, I hate to say this, but they take a piece of my royalty, which isn't a whole lot to begin with. So if you please, go through iUniverse, and it helps pay for my psychological my analysis. No, I'm just kidding. But please go through iUniverse. It's a good way to order the book.
iUniverse. All right, servant of the Lotus Feet. So tell us something. You're in for 4 years, and what's a typical day like for you during those 4 years?
Okay. Let me just say this, Dean. When I got involved in Boston, when I joined the Hare Krishnas in Boston, I spent a year living at the Boston Temple, or ashram. And ashram is a place kind of like a monastery, I guess you could say. It's a very common term in India. It's an Indian-based religion. 1 year in Boston and New England. I spent 3 years in the New York City and New York metropolitan area. And my feeling is, if you're going to be a Hare Krishna, New York City is a really good place to do it. So what is a typical day like? A typical day would begin at approximately 3 o'clock in the morning with an ice-cold shower. They say it's so that you get out of your physical bodily sense of yourself and focus more on the spirit. I think it's because they didn't pay the heating bill. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I would take an ice cold shower, summer, winter, didn't matter. I would wrap my cloth around me, which, as you said, Dean, it kind of looks like a sheet or a robe kind of thing. Very simple cloth. And then we'd start chanting on our beads, kind of like you've probably seen monastics of various religions chanting on beads, like a rosary. It's comparable to that. And we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, which has been popularized by the George Harrison song, My Sweet Lord. If you listen in the background, you could hear them chanting the mantra. I won't do it now. And we would do that for approximately 2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours of steady chanting, yes.
Oh, my Lord. 215-227-2727. Folks, if you've got questions for Gabe Brandis about his time as a Krishna, give us a call. We're certainly willing to answer any questions you have. But we got to pay the bills, and we're going to take a quick caller. Susan from West Philly, good morning, and welcome to Court Radio on line 1. Welcome, Chan, to Court Radio.
Thank you for receiving my call. I do. And your screener, she's very, very good.
Thank you.
Monica getting a shout out.
There you go.
Is that Monica?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
She
Monica.
hung up on me 3 times until I could get my question correct. So let me
Okay.
put it this way, because I do listen to you.
Okay.
I do. And after I get off the phone, say where you are again. Landlord-tenant law. That's what I'm having a problem with.
What's your question, Chan?
Chan.
Yeah, Chan.
C-H-A-N.
Chan. Yeah,
All
Chan.
right. My question is, I think I have a landlord who, actually a property manager, who is retaliating against me and taking me to court.
Okay.
Because I've complained about mice.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. And what's your question?
What's he taking you to court? Or she
Well,
taking you to court?
that's-
Well, how
He's
is...
saying,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
How is he taking you to court?
He's saying that I don't know. I don't even understand.
Do you
but
pay
I have
the rent?
Paper I'm sorry?
Do
Of
you-
course.
Okay.
On time, all the time.
So what could he
But
possibly
what
be
he said to me, sir, let me tell you how lightly he takes this, because he and his company own 10 properties. The problem is the lack of maintenance, and I bet you a lot of people listening to you know this. The problem is a lack of maintenance. And so I got out of the hospital Labor Day, and there were mice running around my stove.
That's not a good. That's never a good sign when mice run around your stove. And so, I would say that what I would say is that if you've got problems in your house and it's not habitable, then you don't have to pay your rent to the landlord. I emphasize to the landlord. What you do is you open up an escrow account, you deposit your rents into an escrow account, and the landlord doesn't get the benefit of the rent because the landlord doesn't have a home that's habitable. And your job is to put the rent in an escrow account and tell the landlord why you're not paying him and tell him what he can do to make your home habitable, i.e. get rid of the mice, and then he'll get the rent. That's what folks do. Now, if your only obligation is to pay your rent, if you're paying your rent on time, I can't imagine what the landlord would be able to bring you to court for, because that's typically, David, if you're not paying your rent, you go to court. If you're paying your rent, why would somebody take you to court?
I don't know. I don't think they have a basis to take you to court.
Yeah, I don't either, Chan. I'm not
they
sure.
could file, but you wouldn't.
Well, listen. If it's at the end of your lease and you're no longer under tenancy, then they could, go to court to get you evicted just because they don't want to re-rent the place to you. They don't have to rent to you, but in any event, when we're served with a lawsuit, and you say I'm going to court, when you're served with a lawsuit, then you've got to answer the complaint, go to court, and usually it's best to have representation when you do that. We typically don't handle those types of matters, but we would certainly be able to get you somebody who might. Please feel free to give us a call during the week at 215-227-2727. Thanks for listening to Court Radio, and have a great Sunday. David.
Okay.
I cut you off. You were going to ask Gabe a question.
I was. Okay, first, you were talking about the mantra that in the morning.
Yes,
it's
a typical day.
Is this collectively or by yourself?
Okay, well, we would chant on the beads by ourselves. It was a personal meditation.
For 2 hours?
Well, for 2 hours. It would take about 2 hours.
Okay.
We'd start, and then one of the biggest problems was staying awake because we were constantly nodding off to sleep. I was nodding off to sleep for years before I finally stopped falling asleep at that hour of the morning chanting.
Right.
After, I think it was like around 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd have morning worship, and everybody
collectively.
Collective worship in the temple room. And it was a very colorful and very lively service. It's one of the allures, I think, to Hare Krishna. It's a different concept of God than what we are raised with in the Judeo-Christian tradition.
I was just going to ask you, what is the? I guess give everyone, because I really don't. I know all my knowledge of Hare Krishna is what most people is just seeing them and maybe knowing a tiny bit. But what is the basic tenet of the quote unquote religion? Like, what is it that you're told to believe in, or what they want you to believe?
Well, the core philosophy, what they normally hit you with when they come up to you in a parking lot with the bumper stickers trying to shake you down for a few bucks or your entire paycheck, is the concept that you are not your physical body, that you're the spirit within the body. Now, most people, I think, if you think about it, you could say, okay, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. That's not a Hare Krishna tenet, but I think a lot of people can relate to that. Makes sense. We're more than just our physical. However, they take it to an extreme. They take it to another level when they say, okay, you're not physical and you are actually a part, your spirit is a part of Krishna's spirit. And in order to come back to Krishna, i.e. God, you have to follow this path, the path that Prabhupada, the Swami from India, laid down in the 1960s when he came to America.
And what happens if you follow that path?
If you follow that path, you are promised an eternity in the realm, in the world of Krishna.
Okay.
Which is actually, now let me just say this. This is a philosophy, this is a religion that is actually based on a religion that millions of Hindus, particularly Vaishnavas or worshippers of Vishnu or Krishna in India, adhere to today and have adhered to for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. It is based on a genuine religion. It's comparable to what Reverend Moon was to Christianity. They preach Christian.
All right, you're promised eternal. I get that. What do you get if you don't follow the path? What happens then? What
happens to all you demons on the street?
So you burn.
Not exactly you burn. You reincarnate. You reincarnate as the lowest form of life. You're
like a slug or
you're
something.
You're a slug or a worm or just
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay.
It's pretty bad.
215-227-2727. Let's talk to Shakita on line 2, who's got a question about her child. Shakita, welcome to Court Radio.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
I was calling because I'm having an issue with my daughter. She's only in the 3rd grade, but she has 3 girls that constantly pick with her, and it's about assault and harassment. I want to know, is there any way I could bring charges against these children that keep constantly hitting on my child and harassing her? And she was in the bathroom stall, and the girl was banging and kicking on the door and telling her to come out because she wanted to beat her up.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would say you should report that to the principal of the school in writing. Anything you do should be in writing, and put the principal on notice and give him or her the names of the kids who are bullying your child. I think that principal would then have to call a meeting of the parents of those children to have a conversation. And that would be my first, word of advice.
We tried to do that. The parents didn't come up. And like I said, this has been going on since September. Different little incidents. Every other week is something. When one of the 3 get in an argument with or a fight with her, then later on somebody of the other 3 come in and mess with her or fight with her again. And I want to know so it can come to the parents' attention. That's harassment and assault.
Yeah, well, the only way, Shakita, the only way you can, you don't bring and I don't bring necessarily criminal charges or harassment and assault charges. It has to come from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You'd have to notify the district attorney's office if you believed a crime was being committed, and they would have to decide whether they were going to actually charge or process the complaint in a formal fashion. So that's where you would call. You call over to the district attorney's office, and they would. There are district attorneys who handle the children's crimes, and they would investigate it, I'm presuming, depending on the severity of it. They may tell you initially, hey, call the principal, send a letter to the principal. You'll say, I did it. They'll say, do it again. It may require several letters, and you may have to go above the principal's head.
That's what I was wondering. How do I do that?
Well, then you go to you go to. I assume this is a public school.
Yes, it's a public school.
Okay,
board.
Then you go to the school board.
School district.
Yeah, you go to the school district themselves, and I'm sure that there's somebody at the school district who take these complaints very seriously, and they'll bring the principal in and find out what's going on. I mean, it sounds to me like a meeting needs to occur between all of the parents and to get on top of this. The only way that's going to happen, Shakita, is if you keep after them. And again, if you're not getting satisfaction at the school level, then you got to go to the school district level.
Oh, okay.
All right,
so
Shakita.
No need for me to make a police report?
I would say not at this point.
I would say, yeah. I mean, again, I would go to the school district, and I told you, if you're going to go, you might want to start with a private criminal complaint at the district attorney's office and see where that turns up, what that turns up. But before you do that, I would say maybe if you're not getting satisfaction at the school level, you go above the school and you go to the school district. That would be my best advice.
Okay.
Thanks, Shakita, for listening to Court Radio. Have a great Sunday. All right. 215-227-2727. We got Gabe Brandis. Gabe was abducted, not abducted, but kind of held against his free will through psychological influence. Fair enough?
Yeah, you could say that, coercion.
Coercion. 4 years worth of coercion.
Yeah, I know we want to talk about how you were initiated.
Yes,
but before you do that, I have one question because we were on a line of questioning. Was 4 years total? Is that what it was? About 4 years?
4 years, yes.
Just so we get a sense, when was it in that 4 years that you kind of said to yourself, I don't know if this is right for me, but you couldn't get out of it?
Okay.
How long into that 4 years?
Well, that's a really good question, Dave.
Thank you. I kind of specialize in good questions.
I spent, in the 4 years that I spent with the Hare Krishnas, in my memoir, in my book, I tell the whole story.
Right.
what lured me to this group, the joys that I experienced, because it is a very colorful, vibrant religion or a manifestation of that religion. But I also had a lot of doubts. I started doubting almost immediately within days, like, what in the world am I doing here, sitting on the floor, eating food out of a metal plate with a bunch of guys in robes? I should be out there chasing women, finding my future wife, my future, building a life, and it wasn't happening.
Okay, so let's go to the
initiation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is what gave you doubts immediately, right? You started the initiation,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Go ahead.
Well,
Let's hear.
after a year and a half of my time with the Hare Krishna, as a devotee, as a follower of actually one of the disciples of the original Swami, let me just say this. The founder of Hare Krishna passed away in 1977. When I got involved in 1980, there were, I believe, 11 of his disciples who took over the leadership. It was quite a mess, and everybody was grabbing for pieces of the pie. At this point, I was living at the New York City ashram, the one in Manhattan, and I feel if you're going to be a Hare Krishna, New York's the place to do it.
Right.
Because, I mean, it's an exciting, vibrant place. Now, as far as my initiation goes, there were 4 vows that we followed, that we accepted, that we agreed to follow in order to receive our initiation. And those 4 vows were the prohibition against eating meat, no intoxication, no gambling, which they include to mean no speculating on what the scripture means as interpreted by the guru. And of course, the number one biggie, no sexual relations outside of marriage except for the purpose of procreation. So I took my vows, I agreed to that, and I was given the Sanskrit or Vedic name of Padaseva. Now, when I got that name, I was crestfallen. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it had something to do with feet. Well, it turns out that I hated the name Padaseva, but it made a great title for the book, Servant of the Lotus Feet.
Oh, so that's where that comes from.
That's where it comes from.
But wait, you said something that maybe you said it incorrectly, or maybe I misunderstood, or maybe I didn't. You said no. Let me get this right. No sexual relations outside of marriage, except procreation.
Yeah.
So you could have sex with someone and not be married to him as long as
No.
you're... Okay.
With a woman that you're married to, and generally they arrange it.
I thought you.
So wait.
What you were saying was
an arranged marriage.
Yes.
And the
Just
only
to procreate.
time you can have sexual relations with your wife is to have a child.
That's correct.
Once that's accomplished, that's the end of that.
I didn't want anyone thinking you were running around. As long as you're procreating, you can have sex with anybody.
How old were you when you joined the Krishna movement?
I joined about 2 weeks before my 19th birthday, and I left just weeks before my 23rd birthday.
Were you crazy? I mean, you joined when you were 19, and they said you can't drink, you can't
gamble,
and you can't have anything to do with women. And you said, "Hey, this is for me." I mean, what were you thinking?
Well,
yeah,
I was.
You weren't thinking.
Pretty lost. I was searching for something, and it's kind of funny. When I was a child, when I was about 10 years old, probably most listeners remember the movie The Ten Commandments.
Sure,
the version with Charlton Heston.
Yeah, of course.
Remember the scene where the temple priests, the boys were in the Egyptian temple with their shaved heads and their lock of hair to the side.
Yeah.
I identified with that as a child, only I had my shaved head with my lock in the back of my head, which I think is better. At least it kept me balanced.
Yeah, right, to the back.
Right. So, I was looking for something. I was looking for something from the Orient, and that something found me.
So when they gave you this name was a year and a half. Like, you don't get the name until you prove sort of that you're in it.
That's part of the initiation process. They give you the beads, which actually on the cover of the book, you see the hand of my guru handing me my initiation beads. This is actually my moment of initiation on the cover of the book.
Somebody took a picture of that?
Somebody took a picture,
You're allowed to take pictures, huh?
You're allowed to take pictures. It's encouraged. And this picture is actually seen in greater detail on the inside of the book.
Right, okay.
215-227-2727. Go to iUniverse if you want to buy Gabe's book and check out what happened, to a fairly normal guy from Philadelphia in the Northeast who gets sucked up into what apparently is a cult. Let's talk to Anthony from Newark, Delaware. Anthony, welcome to Court Radio.
Good morning, sir. Sir, my question is, my mother got really, really ill, and I was on the West Coast. So I told her sister to get a POA, a power of attorney, so she could make calls and handle my mother's business. now I transferred through my job up here in this area, and now she refusing to give the power of attorney back over to me. And I'm wondering what can I do in order to get that back from her.
Well, you don't need to do anything. If your mother is still competent, all your mother has to do, Anthony, turn down your radio.
It's off.
Okay. All Mom has to do is withdraw her power of attorney.
Okay, with that scenario right there, my mom, sometimes she's in and out of a coma. She's basically not at this point.
Then
she had a stroke and she
broke. Then in that case, it's a lot more difficult. If Mom is no longer competent, then you're going to have Mom declared incompetent and have a guardian appointed, and that guardian could be you. And then you'd have the powers of a power of attorney. But if Mom doesn't have the right to give a power of attorney, the court has to through a guardianship. And that's a lengthy and expensive process.
Okay, now, sir, in this process, that's what I can. When my aunt got the power of attorney, I don't think my mother was competent enough then to give the power of attorney.
Again, then you must have Mom declared incompetent. The court could set aside the power of attorney and and have a guardian appointed on behalf of Mom. But all of this that we're describing is a court process. Filing a petition to have Mom declared incompetent, hiring a doctor to testify that Mom's incompetent, and that testimony can be written down. He doesn't have to come into a court. There's a process involved in this. Where does Mom live?
Right now, she's in a nursing home, and it's in New York.
Then you'd probably need to get a New York attorney to have Mom declared incompetent and to do that process in New York, since that's where she is. And, if you need somebody during the week, by all means, give us a call. We can give you the names of attorneys in the area where Mom lives. But it's definitely a court proceeding at this point, and it's not going to be, something that's, easy. It's going to take time. It could take several months for this completely to happen. And in that process, you're going to have to pay some money to an attorney to have that happen. And also, as I said, maybe get a doctor as an expert witness. I know the procedures and processes here in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania, but in New York it may be different. So, again, it would start with talking to New York counsel, but you're going to have Mom declared incompetent. That would be my first and best advice.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Anthony, take care. Thanks for listening to Court Radio, and have a great Sunday.
You too. Thank you.
215-227-2727. Hey, Gabe, we're going to take a quick break because we got to pay the bills, and our sponsors are looking to get their messages out. When we come back, folks, we got Gabe's mom on the line who's going to tell us what it was like to have to deal with a son who was snatched up by the Hare Krishnas and what she did to get him back. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
If you've been injured on the job, workers' comp, you need someone fighting for you from the start. Call Jeffrey Gross, attorney at law. Don't rely on your employer or insurance company to get it right. Call 215-512-1500. If you're entitled to workers' comp or it's being challenged, Jeffrey Gross can help get the money you deserve, and he won't get paid unless you get paid. Call 215-512-1500. Jeffrey Gross, attorney at law, representing Pennsylvania's injured workers for more than 20 years. It's a legal and financial squeeze. You're unable to work because of an accident, but your legal case is still not settled, so you can't pay the bills to take care of your family. But now, thanks to U.S. Claims, you can. If you have a pending lawsuit, call 1-877-U.S. Claims. While you're waiting for your settlement, U.S. Claims can help you pay the bills. Get out of the squeeze. Call 1-877-U.S. Claims today. If you have legal problems and need answers, call My Philly lawyer, Dean Weitzman, first at 215-227-2727 for personal injury, medical malpractice, birth injury, and more. Call Dean first.
He will fight for your rights. That's what Dean Weitzman is all about.
Call My Philly lawyer, Dean Weitzman, first. 215-227-2727. My Philly lawyer, when winning matters most. For 20 years, Center City Medical Center has provided premium expert medical services for Philadelphia. Whether you need musculoskeletal rehab or an immigration physical, call 888-945-EXAM. Our board-certified physicians have more than 80 years' experience from post-injury rehab to DNA paternity testing. To make an appointment at one of our 3 convenient locations, call 888-945-EXAM. Get premium expert care. Center City Medical Center, serving Northeast, North, and Center City, Philadelphia.
The following is a paid program brought to you by My Philly Lawyer. The views and opinions expressed are those of the sponsor and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the station and its management.
Need more legal answers? Here's more Court Radio with your host, Dean Weitzman.
Good morning and welcome back. It's Court Radio and I'm Dean Weitzman. If you've got legal questions, I've got the answers. Give me a call first. 215-227-2727. Joined in the studio with my co-host, the one, the only, the inimitable, and always here, David M. Rappaport.
Hello.
Hello, David.
How are you?
It's Sunday. Do you know what yesterday was? Sequential Saturday.
Sequential Saturday? What does that mean?
12, 13, 14.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Never happened before, never will again.
Never will again.
Yeah. Well, it happened before, but it won't happen again.
Right.
Because, next year is...
100 years it'll happen again.
Yeah.
In 100
years.
exactly. It's exactly 100 years, yeah.
Yeah, 12, 13, 14. Well, there you go. So we have Gabe Brandis in the studio. Gabe and I went to high school together, and then right after high school, Gabe disappeared. He was gone. What happened to Gabe? He got sucked up by the Hare Krishna. Back then, it seemed like cults were a big thing. They were everywhere. Jim Jones and the folks, in Guyana and
Reverend Moon.
Yeah, the Moonies, and there was, and
look, everyone was, as you mentioned, people were searching. A lot of people were searching for things. It's kind of the way.
Right, and
searching.
The cult search, that goes back from the 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
The anti-disestablishmentarian.
I don't think it happens anymore, right?
It does happen.
It does, but not in
Are there still Krishnas running around? I don't see them in Philly. Where are they?
Well, they as it was explained to me by this young lady who approached me in a parking lot, much the way I used to approach people in the parking lot.
That still happens?
It still happens. But the thing is, they're incognito these days. Well, we were incognito in those days because we used to dress up in regular street clothes, and on top of my shaved head, I would wear a wig and a baseball cap so people wouldn't know I was a Christian.
No way.
Really?
Yeah, so you wouldn't know. But if somebody comes up to you like at a sporting event or a concert, in the parking lot and slaps a sticker in your hand and says, "Hey, how about $1 for good luck?" And while you're like pulling out your wallet, they'll say, "Hey, how about that 20 over there?" And I'll try to get you to give your entire paycheck.
Is that what you did?
I did, and I was good at it.
Why? Why did you do that?
Well, what do you do with the money, first of all? Where does it go? Where does the money go?
Didn't go in my bank account, I'll tell you that right now.
That's what
I would say that this actually would come under the definition of modern-day slavery because, in fact, I was a willing slave. I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, as I said earlier, take a cold shower, chant for a couple hours. Then I'd go out and hustle their wares for about 10 or 12 hours every single day.
Wow.
7 days a week?
If not 6 days a week, 7 days a week. That was my purpose.
Did you have an amount that they wanted you to come back with? Like, don't come back until you have $100 every day or something.
We kind of had quotas, but
yeah.
we either made it or we didn't. And sometimes we went over, sometimes not.
Wow. Okay. So they would not require you, but you would hand the money in when you came back?
Every dollar of it. Now.
Wow.
Well, we got to take a call. Let's talk to James from West Philly, who's got a question. James, welcome to Court Radio.
Yeah, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good, thanks. What's your question?
Yeah, my aunt passed away, and me and my cousin bought a house in West Philly together. Now, my cousin passed away, and I don't know if he had a will. And the money he got to buy the half of the house he got from his mother. Now, his mother just passed away. She left the will saying that the money she gave her son, I was supposed to pay that back to whoever she left it to.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand that, but wills can't dictate to you what has to be paid back. They give away property. That's what they do. And if that's the only thing that a will is good for. I have property. I give it to X, Y, or Z. Can't dictate that something that was previously given has to be given back to somebody else. That's not the purpose of a will. I'm not sure that that's a valid clause in a will, if that's what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. Once you guys, I assume you bought the property during her life, and you bought it in your name and your cousin's name. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then it's you two are joint tenants. End of story. Nobody has to pay anything back. I'd have to look at the will, but David, can you imagine a will that has a clause that requires somebody to pay something back?
No, it's not even.
No.
It doesn't even.
Have you ever seen this document?
I haven't. They sent it. She died in Georgia, and the person who's holding her state had sent the will to me to sign, so their lawyer down there can process the will.
Yeah, and did you have an attorney? What did you sign it first of all?
I signed it, signing that I received her will.
You signed that you received it.
Not signed, but got it. I did sign a paper and got it notarized. That she's there in Georgia. They sent the will up here, so everybody, I guess, who is going to inherit something.
Right. Well, that's the point. Guess. My only comment is: look, if you're going to do something, sign your name to something that potentially has a negative effect, or
you need to.
It's going to transfer property. You always want to have that looked at by an attorney before you sign that document. And you don't just sign your name to something and have it notarized without knowing exactly. Somebody needs to school you on that and tell you that, that's the right thing to do or it's not the right thing to do. You need legal advice in that circumstance. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, I've seen wills, and I think it's proper for a will to say, that the decedent from their assets want certain things to be paid from their own assets. But you can't give something to someone and then dictate that they pay something. That doesn't make sense at all. But I've seen wills that say I want to pay, give money to charity. I want to give money to pay off someone's loan. My bequeath to my son is that I'm going to pay off his house. Whatever, that can be done, but not what you're talking about. That doesn't sound right to me.
So
my other question would be, though, my cousin's name's on the deed. So when he passed, we had to find out he had a will first if he left it to her in the first place?
Okay, if your cousin passed and he's a joint tenant of yours, then you got to look at the deed itself to see how you held the property. Because when somebody is a joint tenant of another's and that person dies, that property may go to that joint tenant's family or it may go to the person who's the joint tenant. It really depends on how the deed was written. Again,
we're half on everything.
No. There's halves and there's halves. There's halves that go to the surviving half, and then there's half that goes to the the decedent's family. It really depends on exactly the words used in the deed. And you need counsel. That's the bottom line. You're talking about a property that has value. How much is your property worth?
40,000, 50,000.
Okay, 40 or 50,000. So half of it's 20 or 25,000. Is it not worth a few $100s to sit down with an attorney to make sure that what you're doing is the right thing and that you're going to save what is yours and not lose it unnecessarily? Folks need to talk to attorneys, and that kind of counsel that you describe isn't for free. It's not like, a lot of our clients are represented on a contingent fee basis, but some pay by the hour. And the type of representation you're talking about is paid by the hour. But it's worth getting counsel to review your documents because a lot of money's involved here. And it's not as obvious as it seems. Let's put it that way. People think, certain things are going to go certain ways. It doesn't always go that way. And you could be giving something up that you don't need to. Give us a call during the week at 215-227-2727. Thanks for calling Court Radio, and have a great Sunday. Hey, David.
Yes.
Let's get Gabe's mom on the phone.
Okay.
Gabe's mom is online now with us. Welcome to Court Radio.
Hello. Good
Hi.
morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mom.
Say,
Good morning, Gabe.
so here we have Gabe's mom on the phone, and you were instrumental in Gabe's coming back to life, in essence. What was it? Let me just ask you this: what was it like when you found out that your son was a member of Hare Krishna?
Oh, unbelievable! I just could not believe that he was involved in a group like that, and his couldn't come home. His life was so different, and it was just a horrible feeling. Unbelievable. It's like losing a child, which is the worst thing that could possibly happen to a parent.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And was Gabe your only child?
No, he has a younger brother.
And what was could you tell us? Well, even his younger brother must have been really affected by Gabe's leaving the family.
Oh yeah, of course. He also was devastated, and we wanted to get him back. We want him to have a normal life.
And
how much communication did you have with Gabe, like in the initial time period?
Well, he called me to tell me that he was in this group. I said, "Mom," he says they're giving him free food and free haircuts and stuff like that. I said, "See, I'd be glad to give you those things."
Yeah, right. You had been giving him those things.
Yeah.
Right.
And
how often did you hear from him?
Well, it's been a long time. Not very often. Like I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it was every few months or something.
So how did you know how did you go about knowing where he was and trying to plan getting him back, so to speak? I mean, how did that come about?
Well, I guess when he did call me, he must have told me where he was.
Right.
And I went to a support group. There was a support group that I went to out on the main line, and the meetings, I believe, it's hard to remember because it's so long ago. I think they were every week. And I went there, and a great many people, great many parents in that group who had children in all kinds of cults. And through them, I was introduced to deprogrammers.
Deprogrammers. So those are the folks who actually unwind somebody's brain that's been twisted up by a cult.
Exactly.
So usually you think about these you meet a deprogrammer at like an alley, and you kind of talk in hushed tones about how you're going to plan getting back your loved one and snatching them. I mean, how did it happen? Oh, to tell us. How did you get him back?
Okay. So when I did talk to him this time, I told he was going to be allowed to come home. So I said, well, why don't you come home for Passover? That would be so we would, because the whole family gets together, for a Passover dinner.
Another religious, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, not a cult. And it was going to be at my sister's house. And we told him it wasn't, but that's what we told him. And he agreed to come home, or he got permission to come home.
I'm kind of shocked, not to be funny, but the food was probably so much better at the Krishna camp than at Passover.
No, not really.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. So, all right, so he came home.
They had.
Right. So he came home, and...
So he came home a few days before.
Right.
In fact, he came home a few days before I expected him, which was really a shock.
Okay.
And the day of the deprogramming, we drove to my sister's house. In fact, I asked him to drive, which was really strange because here he was driving to his own, whatever you want to call it, deprogramming.
And what happens at this deprogramming? He drives there, and what happens?
Well, we went in, and there were these guys. He couldn't see them. They were stationed all around the entrance to her house.
Okay.
And inside. And he came in, took off his shoes like he always did, and we talked for a few minutes, and my sisters greeted him, etc. Two of my sisters were there. And, all of a sudden the guys came out one at a time and introduced themselves. And and they said they wanted to talk to him. Well, of course, he was shocked, and he started to turn around and run, but they grabbed him.
Okay.
And they, I guess, took him into the room and started talking to him. And
do you know what they said? Do you know what kind of influence they put on him? You know, like, what did they say? Or what was the gist of it?
The phrase informed decision, I think, comes to mind. But anyway, I don't remember exactly because it's been too long.
All right.
But after a while, we got in the cars, 2 cars, and drove to what they called a safe house that had been prearranged.
All right.
And when we got there...
Did you have to pay for this? Was there?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Oh, really?
There's
there's a charge for deprogramming.
Oh, my goodness, yes. At that time, it was about a year's salary. I was a secretary.
Wow.
And I was a single parent, and...
This is sort of like a symbiotic relationship, Dean. It's like us with the insurance companies. They hate us, but we all work together, right? The defense attorneys and, well, without us, they wouldn't have a job. The deprogrammers wouldn't have a job without people being in Hare Krishna.
I guess.
Right? So, and they're making money from it.
Poor Gabe's mom has given up a year's worth of salary.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, this was important to get Gabe back.
Well, certainly.
Absolutely.
And there was no guarantee that it was going to work either.
Right.
Yeah.
So wait, they go to the safe house. When is it that you know? I mean, I can imagine this doesn't take one day. It's probably a process of deprogramming.
Oh, yeah. I think, and I had to stay there, too.
Wow.
They took him. There were several guys, like 3 or 4 of them, plus what they call security people.
Right, to make sure he didn't leave or people didn't come in, right?
Right. So they took him up to one of the bedrooms, and they talked like around the clock.
Right.
Did they? I had to. Pardon me?
No, I was just going to say, did they try and come, the Hare Krishna people? Did they try and get you back?
No,
okay.
Not that I know of.
No, right. They were actually glad to see me go. I was asking too many questions. I was like kind of, they were glad to see me go.
Right, you were starting to.
And as far as the deprogrammers go, I remember the first night, usually people will stonewall the deprogrammers, just clam up and not say a word. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the deprogrammers were like, Gabe, we need to call it a night. We're tired.
Right.
I was ready to come out at that point.
Why?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Gabe. What was it about the group that had soured you?
Well, I had a disillusionment, which actually separates part 1 from part 2 of the book. And I don't want to spoil it for the readers out there because it is a really very dramatic and exciting event that occurred. But I started seeing the contradictions between what was taught and what was espoused by the leaders and the way it was really practiced. I started gradually backing out and questioning the validity of it. But by this point, I was too locked in to the philosophy, to the beliefs. I needed help getting out. Now, when I came home to visit my family a few days earlier than Mom expected, it's because I actually escaped with a paper bag full of my belongings, which amounted to little more than a change of cloth and a toothbrush. I had no possessions. So that's why I showed up at my mom's house days earlier.
So you were ready.
You were ready.
Yeah, you were ready when Mom was ready to snatch you. Wish you would have gotten out a little sooner. You would have saved Mom a year's salary. All right, listen. We got to take a quick break. We're going to be right back after this. Sponsorship announcements.
If you've been injured on the job and are entitled to workers' comp, you need someone fighting for you from the start. Call Jeffrey Gross, attorney at law. Don't rely on your employer or insurance company to get it right. Call 215-512-1500. If you're entitled to workers' comp or it's being challenged, Jeffrey Gross can help get the money you deserve, and he won't get paid unless you get paid. Call 215-512-1500. Jeffrey Gross, attorney at law, representing Pennsylvania's injured workers for more than 20 years. It's a legal and financial squeeze. You're unable to work because of an accident, but your legal case is still not settled, so you can't pay the bills to take care of your family. But now, thanks to U.S. Claims, you can. If you have a pending lawsuit, call 1-877-US-CLAIMS. While you're waiting for your settlement, U.S. Claims can help you pay the bills. Get out of the squeeze. Call 1-877-US-CLAIMS today. If you have legal problems and need answers, call My Philly Lawyer, Dean Weitzman, first at 215-227-2727 for personal injury, medical malpractice, birth injury, and more. Call Dean first.
He will fight for your rights. That's what Dean Weitzman is all about.
Call My Philly Lawyer, Dean Weitzman, first. 215-227-2727. My Philly Lawyer, when winning matters most. For 20 years, Center City Medical Center has provided premium expert medical services for Philadelphia. Whether you need musculoskeletal rehab or an immigration physical, call 888-945-EXAM. Our board-certified physicians have more than 80 years' experience from post-injury rehab to DNA paternity testing. To make an appointment at one of our 3 convenient locations, call 888-945-EXAM. Get premium expert care. Center City Medical Center, serving Northeast, North, and Center City, Philadelphia.
The following is a paid program brought to you by My Philly Lawyer. The views and opinions expressed are those of the sponsor and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the station and its management.
Need more legal answers? Here's more Court Radio with your host, Dean Weitzman.
Welcome back. It's Court Radio, and I'm Dean Weitzman, joined in the studio with my co-host. There you heard him, David Rappaport. Hello, Dave.
Good morning.
Good
Hello,
morning.
Dave.
Hurry.
We got Gabe Brandis in the studio. Gabe was an ex-Hare Krishna, snatched up and taken away and programmed by the Krishnas and then deprogrammed by his loving mother from the Northeast Philadelphia. She brought you back to life, Gabe. She gave you life and brought you back to life.
That's
you owe
right.
this woman
2
everything.
That's right. My memoir is dedicated to my mother. In fact, the inscription reads, dedicated to Mama, who died a little every day while I dwelled among the Hare Krishnas and returned to life the day I came home. Thank you, Mama.
There you go.
All right.
And you can buy Gabe's book, Servant of the Lotus Feet, A Hare Krishna Odyssey, somebody who escaped from the cult, by going to iUniverse.com and looking up Servant of the Lotus Feet and buying Gabe's book. If you're interested, that's what you have to do. Gabe, tell us, you met somebody famous in your process here, Woody Allen. What happened with that?
I met Woody Allen. Wow. And you know what? I was doing some fundraising. It was the day of the International Anti-Nuke Rally in New York City in 1983. This was a protest that was going on all around the world. I was at the corner of 53rd and Lexington as a Hare Krishna incognito when I saw a familiar face. I saw my hero of adolescence, Woody Allen, talking to a woman on the corner. I stood there waiting for that conversation to finish, and I approached Woody Allen. We spoke for the better part of an hour, just talking about, the characters on the street and this and that and the other. At the end of our conversation, it turned towards Hare Krishna. I don't really want to spoil it for you, but I will say this. Not very long after that conversation took place, one of his well-known movies, Hannah and Her Sisters, came out. One of the subplots of Hannah and Her Sisters is he's looking for religion, and there's a scene in there where he's talking to a Hare Krishna in Central Park. Now, I can't prove this, but I would bet my bottom dollar that our conversation influenced that scene, maybe even the entire subtext. I don't know. But I would say that I think I saw myself in that scene in Central Park that day.
More importantly, did he give you any money?
No. I tried to.
He probably tried to get some, right?
I invited him to the temple, to the ashram for our free Sunday dinner. That would have been a big fish.
Yeah,
but
really?
He wasn't taking the bait.
No, he had more important things, I guess.
Well, listen, I want to wrap up, but I want to thank you for joining us today, Gabe, and your mom.
Pleasure, Dean.
Yeah. It was an interesting hour. And the thing is that this is still going on, and I guess as a parent, you want to be always mindful of who your kids are hanging out with and talking to and playing with.
And books they're reading.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good book to read to caution people about what's going on.
Yeah, it's certainly not something. I don't think people would read your book and come away with a feeling that this was a good 4 years of your life.
No,
it was a wasted 4 years, and you could have been in forever. I mean, there are people that are still in probably that were there when you were there.
I think there are.
Wow,
I think there are, because once in a while I see what look like familiar faces in a parking lot here or there, and I feel bad for them. But, what can you do?
All right. Well, listen, folks, if you've got legal questions and you haven't gotten answered today, you can give us a call during the week at 215-227-2727. I want to thank Gabe's mom. I want to thank David. Follow us on Twitter at Court Radio and check us out online at courtradio.com. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
The preceding was a paid program of MyPhillyLawyer.com.